What's up, everybody? It's Cameron Slacker here, and today I got to you probably the last deck profile I have in a while. It is going to be my Kaiju deck build for 2019, and let's just get right into it. Of course, starting off the Kaiju build, you gotta have your Kaijus. Typically, people would try to use different ratios and all that stuff for certain Kaijus, but this is the ratio I've always found to be the most appealing for me. The first one is 3 copies of the Star Destroyer Kaiju Yugioh. He, of course, is the main attacker. This is the one you typically want to be on your side of the field. He's a light attribute. He's machine. You, of course, like every Kaiju in the deck, tribute your opponent's monster, summon him, and then on your side of the field, since your opponent has a Kaiju, you can summon it just right out. This is the one that you would typically want to put on your side of the field. That's why I typically have 3 of him. And of course, his effect, he gets to negate one thing and destroy one thing. However, it doesn't have to be the same thing. Like, for example, if you, let's say, destroy a monster, let's say you negate a monster's effect, you don't have to destroy that monster. You can easily say, okay, I negate that monster's effect and destroy your face down. You can do something like that. He's, of course, 3,300, making him one of the biggest, if not the biggest kaiju, and he's just really good, especially for that negation. Next up is, of course, you already know, the Sea Turtle Kaiju, Gamasio. Now, you typically you would give this to your opponent. This is the one you typically want to give to your opponent. However, since you are in fact running a pure kaiju build here, you don't want, like, sometimes it isn't always the best giving Gamasio to your opponent, because he can in fact negate multiple stuff as long as you have counters on him. So he can easily be used by your opponent to negate a whole bunch of stuff, and I had to find that out the hard way. Because I'm too used to him being in Mermels, but in the Kaiju build, since you're going to always have counters running around, that's how it is. But since he is the weakest Kaiju attack-wise, and the Kaijus are automatically summoned in attack position, since this guy only has 2,200, it's just the weakest number-wise, and that's why you would typically give it to your opponent. But once again, be careful, because it can backfire. Next up, 2 copies of Dogoran, the Mad Flame Kaiju. Personally, this is probably my second favorite Kaiju. It blows up the field. It can just blow up the field when you remove counters from it. But it can't attack that turn. But it's fine. Once again, it's a 3K body. It's typically, this is Godzilla. If Star Destroyer, I have no idea. I completely forgot who he's based off of, and I do know Gamasiel is based off of Gamera. So, and this is Godzilla. So, yeah, it's a 3K, and yeah, it's just awesome. You would typically see it in dinosaur decks, though. Then, of course, there's Kamungus, 2 copies of it. The Sticky String Kaiju. I mean, come on, the name is already a joke in itself. However, the thing about this one is that the reason why I played 2 of it instead of 3 or 1 is because I feel like it's small enough to give to your opponent, but big enough to use on your own side. You know what I'm saying? Now, the thing about this kaiju is that basically can stop monsters from attacks or negate their stuff and all that. The reason why I'm being so nonchalant about this one is because it's really just here because of its even 2400 attack. Now for the one of kaijus. I wanted to keep the kaijus to a decent amount considering how all of them have different values, they have different ways of summoning it. Like, they all have the same summoning, but their effects are different, and they have different values, and some of them are better, some are weaker, blah, 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 blah. Next up, we have Thunder King, the Thunderstrike Kaiju. I think this one is supposed to be Hydra or something for the Godzilla universe, but it can attack multiple times. That's pretty much its thing. And your opponent can activate card effects while it happens. It can attack up to 3 times, especially considering it has 3 heads. This is also one of the strongest kaijus because it has 3300 attack. Yeah, 3300, yeah. And you could use this as the 3 copy and use one of Jizukido. I wouldn't. I personally just wouldn't do that because Thunder King. The problem with Thunder King versus Jizukido is Jizukido has the negates on it, and then can do it for less counters. Blah 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 blah. I just think Jizukido is just more worth it in the end because it can stay out longer versus Thunderstrike. Next one up is Radion, the multi-dimensional kaiju. It can make a clone of itself. There's so many rulings with that clone. Like, I know you can't synchro with it. I think you can exceed with it. I'm not sure. The clone is the exact same attack and defense, but no effect. And is 20, and this card is 2800, so it's still a pretty good beat stick. So basically, it gives you 2 kaijus. That's pretty much the goal of it. But if you ask me, it's still, that's why I only won one of it. The clone isn't worth it. It's got good stats and all, but and for the final kaiju, Ghidorah, the Mystery Dust Kaiju, also Mothra for the Godzilla universe. It can that's the monster it's based off of. It can cut the attack and defense of all the monsters on the field in half. Now you can clearly see why this would be bad to give your opponent. This is also understandable why you wouldn't really give it to yourself. But I feel like you really need a multiple variety of kaijus because you never know. But at the same time, I'm not running the super anti kaiju machine Mecha Dogoran or whatever. It's supposed to be Mecha Godzilla because it just doesn't work out. It just doesn't do enough, if you ask me. Now for the non-kaiju monsters, 2 Carcardees in order to get to your kaijus faster. Typically, you don't need to do too much in one turn, so this card is always pretty good to use. Set your face down, activate your spells and traps, whatever, and just summon it, get rid of it, get your draws. Get to the kaijus fast. Now, here's a little interesting thing that I like doing. You could easily replace these next 3 cards with any cards that you like. This is just my personal thing that I like doing. 2 Winged Dragon of Ra Spear modes. Yep, I like the fact that I get more tributes and my opponent can't really do anything with them, and it's just really good for me. Just for me personally, it's really good. It's just my little tech that I like having. And the Winged Dragon of Ra, because I don't want Spear mode just sit there and do nothing. So when I get it back, I can summon Ra immediately. Ra has literally no other purpose in the deck besides this little combo I like doing. And of course, it becomes automatic 4K attack and defense. It can destroy a card. It has similar stats to all the kaijus, so it can easily fight them one-on-one if it needs to. It's really good. Like, it's just the tech that I need. As long as I don't draw into it, that's why I only run one Winged Dragon of Raw instead of multiple. Next up, one Neospatian Grand Mole. I could run more, could run less. I probably should run more. This is why I was telling you guys you can easily get rid of the Winged Dragon of Raw in one of the spear modes to easily just put in 3 copies of Grand Mole. But I think Grand Mole's pretty good at one, if you ask me. It's just how I'm used to playing with it. And it's hard to make deck space for it sometimes. One Battle Fader, because once again, we need something to stop battles, and I just feel comfortable having it, especially since most of the time the fields are empty. So now that's it for the monster lineup. If you're wondering why I'm not playing any of the other stuff, you know what I'm talking about, the hand traps. It's because of budget. It's just I'm not particularly wealthy like that, so I play a lot of budget cards, so excuse me. Now, of course, for the spell cards, you have to run 3 Waterfront. Field spell, easy counters every time someone puts stuff in the graveyard. If you have 3, you can easily add a kaiju from your deck to your hand. You can remove it to stop this card from ever being destroyed. It's too good. It's too good. My only regret is not putting terraforming. You could use terraforming, but I choose not to. And thanks to the ban lists, 3 interrupted kaiju slumbers, balls of the field. Balls of the field, gives your opponent counter, give your opponent a kaiju, give yourself a kaiju. Beautiful. Just beautiful. Plus it has a graveyard effect where you can banish this card and search a kaiju. It's just beautiful. Now this one's a little interesting. 3, the kaiju files. The reason why I have it is, once again, more counters. I like having more counters outside of Waterfront. So, and this also searches the spell and trap cards, aka Slumber. So it's not that bad. You could easily choose 1, 2, whatever amount that you want. But typically, I would typically play 3, just to get as many counters as I can, as fast as I can, to just blow out my opponents. The only non-kaiju based spell card is Mystical Space Typhoon, just to get rid of any back row. I kind of used all my... You could use something... I wouldn't recommend Twin Twisters, to be honest, because the monsters that you do have aren't typically ones you want to get rid of, unless by their effects or by battle or whatever. So yeah, but you could substitute the Mystical Space Typhoon with something like Monster Reborn or whatever. Now for the traps. Yes, we're using full-on traps. First up, the Kaiju Capture Mission pretty much stops your opponent from being able to use your Kaiju effectively, in my opinion, so I like using it. And at the same time, if you have it face down and your opponent, say, Twin Twisters it, then you get an effect that lets you draw 2. Automatically worth it, in my opinion. I am so sorry, but having a chance to use Pot of Greed is always a good thing, in my opinion. I don't care how slow it is. Now for Mirror Forest, well, Blazing Mirror Forest. Like I said, I'm trying to end this game mad fast. You know what I'm saying? So, destroy. So the reason why I'm using this over the other Mirror Forces really just comes down to the damage. Like, typically they won't let me use the Kaiju sometimes, so more damage is always good for me. Now for the Now these are the only one of trap cards. Bottomless Trap Hole, standard stuff. You could put more in if you want. Any suggestions in the comments will be very much appreciated. Scrap Iron Scarecrow, it's my personal favorite trap card. I just really like the constant I can stop one attack thing. And of course, removing brainwashing to get back kaijus. Skill drain, once again, like I said, after the whole Gamasio thing, where I almost lost because of it, never again. And finally, solemn warning. I think it speaks for itself. Alright, everybody, that's the Kaiju deck profile. My only real recommendation is to put in stuff like another archetype. If you guys can really find me another archetype that I could put in with the Kaijus, I would adore it. Because I love running a pure Kaiju build, but I'll be the first one to say that sometimes I do want to spice it up, put in more tech, whatever I have to do. But for now, please like, comment, subscribe to Cameron Slacker. You know who it is. Have a great and wonderful day.